Today I compiled 10 of my album reviews of the Rolling Stone 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list.
Hey, baby, get some bubblegum in this motherfucker.
Today I listened to album 340, Snoop Doggy Dogg's 1993 album Doggy Style. Snoop Dogg was probably the first rapper I'd ever heard of, before I even knew that hip-hop was a genre. The time I was aware of him was thanks to that Katy Perry song, who's basically a cartoon character, as unthreatening as a Pekingese puppy, ironically. He was much more controversial back in 1993, actually being arrested for murder while making this record. He doesn't hold back when making it, which is equal parts violent, lewd, and remarkably relaxed. Snoop Dogg's gentle flow and his sweet G-Funk production hits like Gin and Juice and Who Am I, What's My Name? It's hard to take his sometimes objectionable lyrics too seriously. Snoop Dogg is the star of the show here, and this is the gauge when he invites his friends, like the DOC and Warren G. Long live the dog. 3.4 to 5. Today I listened to album 339, the 1989 album Janet Jackson's Rhythm Nation 1814 by Janet Jackson. Jimmy Jam and Terrence Lewis were on their warpath. From Minneapolis, they came to subject all pop music under the honking, clattering, thumping pop-funk production. On Janet Jackson's fourth album, they brought seductive R&B, jiving New Jack Swing, and screeching hair metal into that realm. Jackson was looking for something else, bringing a more political angle than the previous record. It's not particularly sophisticated though, and the knowledge, she bravely apologizes for prejudice, ignorance, bigotry, and illiteracy. Not exactly Rage Against the Machine, so I'm not that impressed with this. I find the production a bit overwhelming, and Jackson not particularly great lyrics and not particularly well sung. 2.8 to 5. Today I listened to album 338, Eno's 1975 album Another Green World. Roxy Music made pretty experimental music, at least for the mainstream rock world. For that keyboardist, Brian Eno, Roxy Music was not nearly experimental enough. In fact, Eno discarded basically all conventions, and doing so practically invented the concept of ambient music. It wouldn't be named as such until Eno's sixth studio album in 1978, nor of course many other contributors, like our old friends Can. But I don't really get ambient music. For everything I'm against, there's no passion or emotion, it's just pleasant background noise. It's very musically impressive, nice modal changes and the like, but it never reaches a climax or a conclusion, because that would mean you might pay attention to music. Who would want that? I mean, I just don't get it. 2 out of 5. Today I listened to album 337, Bob Dylan's 1965 album John Wesley Harding. I gave Dylan a pretty hard time last time I reviewed him. This album is really great. Actually not a huge fan of the first 3 songs, but it really picks up after that. All Along the Watchtower is a real menacing vibe. Dear Landlord is a complex appeal to mutual understanding, and I pity the poor immigrants as a melancholy rumination on challenges of assimilation. So why do I like this album so much more than the last one? I do think Dylan sings a lot better on this album. It's mostly the copious harmonica which makes this record great. I love me some harmonica. 4 out of 5. Today I listened to album 336, Roxy Music's 1982 album Avalon. I've been kind of dreading reviewing this album. Wish I could just dismiss Roxy Music. I think they're boring. They make music which should be interesting, but just glides off my brain without making any kind of lasting impression. I mean, just listen to something like India on this record. They have so much acclaim that saying you don't like Roxy Music is like saying you don't get Roxy Music. It's like wearing a sign saying I'm a moron. I mean, they do have some hits, like the opener More Than This, which is a really catchy vocal line courtesy of lead singer Brian Ferry. But this is the anti-punk, the anti-rock. Music secretaries who dropped out of art school to get a real job on the mirror that's still interesting in culture. Boring. 2 out of 5. Today I listened to album 335, the 1985 album The Basement Tapes by Bob Dylan and the band. What's going on with this list? First Brian Eno, then Bob Dylan, then Roxy Music, and now Dylan and his band again. Listening to this list has become a bit of a chore. My opinion is Dylan's descended to extreme so far, as they've been alternately mocking or applauding. This time I'm more mixed. The bulk of the Basement Tapes was recorded 8 years before its official release, a period of creativity with Dylan and his backing band following a hectic tour schedule where he'd been routinely heckled and called a Judas for incorporating more rock instrumentation into his folk music. The Basement Tapes is more relaxed, country-ish fare. I don't find it overly compelling. The worst part of the album is naturally the 8 band solo songs, recorded a year after the rest of the album, underproduced to the point of sounding like the first draft. And quite frankly, no one really understands why they all had to be included. None of the songs on this record are particular standouts to me, but they contribute to a pleasant ambiance. The second best Dylan album so far. 3.1 out of 5. Today I listened to album 334, September's 1970 album Abraxas. Carlos Santana is one of the canonical rock gods, strumming the guitar with great melodiousness, fluency, and emotionality. Largely instrumental tracks like the jazzy Instant Nishabur or Latini Samba Parti might be the best at showing Santana's skill on the axe. The contributions of Alberto Jean Tinto on piano and Chipito Arias on percussion can't be ignored. Latin rock instrumental jams don't generally get on the radio though, so this album also features Fleetwood Mac and Tito Puente covers, sung by lead singer Greg Rowley. Overall, I find this album quite pleasant to listen to, but none of the songs are so catchy they have to keep replaying them over and over again. 3.1 out of 5. Today I listened to album 333, Bill Withers' 1972 album Still Bill. Am I the only one who thought Bill Withers was kinda boring? I guess it's because I've only really listened to Lean On Me, which is, while heartfelt and sincere, a bit boring really. But Still Bill features some real funk rock, like on big hit Use Me and Kissing My Love. Now it's no 3+3, but I was still impressed by Benoist Blockmon on guitar. I Don't Want You On My Mind is another highlight, between melancholy lyrics and grungy guitar. So why am I not raving about this record? It might be Withers' voice, which is warm and resonant but not exactly agile and supple. I guess I just don't find Withers a very exciting personality, but still made a pretty good album. 3.2 out of 5. Today I listened to album 332, Elvis Presley's 1956 self-titled album. So this is it, the end of Elvis Presley. That's a weird thing to say about something that ended just 50 years ago. But simultaneously a weird thing to say about the first ever rock star, a man who sold more than 1 billion records and inspired all the rock bands of the 60s and beyond. However, Chuck D famously called him racist and a sucker on Fight the Power in 1989, and Presley's music has rarely been heard since then. The Austin Butler-led biopic was meant to cement Presley's legacy, but might just be his curtain call. Is this really fair? I mean, Presley is often accused of stealing black music. He called Fats Domino the real king, and performed a much better cover of Little Richard's Tutti Frutti and Tuck Boone say. My concern was less about him ruining black music than white music. But this album is boring, slow country ballads. Album opener Blue Suede Shoes remains a great catchy rocker, but Presley doesn't impress me much on his promoted debut. 2.9 out of 5. Today I listened to album 331, Madonna's 1989 album Like a Prayer. It's musical cocaine. Title track on album opener Like a Prayer has always been one of my favourite Madonna tracks. Slipping by the senses behind it was quite a suggestive song with Catholic imagery and gospel influences. Love Song, written fellow 80s superstar Prince for some light funk. Cherish is a little burst of poppy joy. Dear Deshi sounds more like it should be played at a Renaissance fair, Until Death Do Us Part has been Madonna's best vocal performance on this record, combining heartbroken lyrics with upbeat instrumentals like it was a Smith song or something. Not every track can be a hit though, like Promise to Try and Spanish Eyes, which are just kind of bland ballads. Religious themes are interwoven throughout this album, but they boil over an act of contrition. And Madonna's mumbled prayer is drowned out by hair metal guitar riffs, showing the dilemma between the guilt-based dogma of Catholicism and excitement of the pop music industry. We're all the better for her choosing the latter. 4 out of 5. Like, share, comment and subscribe.